What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Vintage DAO Podcast. I am so happy to bring everybody back into the mix. We have me and my co-host Alex. We have such exciting stuff going down on this episode. I'm Mohammed Rasmussen, aka Secondhand Scoops. I'm here with my co-host with the most, the one and only My Thrift Deal, aka Alex in the mix. I'm just grateful y'all. If y'all got to this far, thank you. If you got to this far in the podcast, thank you. Genuinely, today we're joined by a legend in the crypto world. You know, he might say he's not a legend, but I'm gonna say he's a legend because it's our podcast. You know what I'm saying? We have the one and only crypto research analyst at Bitwise, the one and only Ryan Rasmussen. Hold it down one time. What a crazy name. Yo, give it up in the chat.
No, happy to be here. Yeah, definitely appreciate the praise, but not deserved. But happy to be here talking about crypto and with Vintage DAO.
Excellent. No, Ryan, genuinely, thank you so much for hopping onto this podcast with us. You are actually our first guest ever on the Vintage DAO Podcast. And I know we hope that this episode for the cats that aren't coming from the crypto universe can be a way to bridge into the crypto universe. And for the cats coming from the crypto universe, we hope there's a place where, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, like you can't spar with a green belt when you a black belt. Like, if you a black belt, you got to spar with a black belt. You know what I'm saying? So we hope that for the crypto cats that's listening to the podcast, there's a spar with at least a green belt and a black belt. You know what I mean?
Thank you for that, Mohammed. Just to say hello to everybody. I wanted Ryan to come on today just because he's one of the most knowledgeable people that I know in the crypto space. And I know for a lot of people in vintage, crypto is something new to you and you don't know that much. And it really helps to like genuinely hear from an expert in the space, and anything you think that it might be a scam or anything like that. Could talk about all those things today. You know, Ryan has been knee deep in everything DeFi for the last year plus, and before that in the traditional finance system for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years prior to that. So we'll just have Ryan give it a long intro about himself and let us know what he's up to now, kind of talk about his career path to getting to where he is now, and give us some good insight into the crypto ecosystem and community right now with DeFi and NFTs. And then I'm sure he's going to want to hear a little bit more about Vintage DAO as well. So with that, Ryan, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for the intro, guys, and really excited to be here. Like you said, I kind of been knee deep in this stuff all the time, and have been lucky enough to be knee deep in it for the past year or so now in my current role. But I just, big fan of crypto, big fan of DAOs and NFTs, and just what the whole Web3 kind of ecosystem is growing into. So it's fun to see it all evolve, especially over the past few years. I guess I'm happy to give a little intro on how I got into the space and a little bit on my background. So I studied finance in college, and was always kind of felt like I was just born like just too late to really take advantage of like the .com or like mobile app kind of like social media boom that really happened in the last technology cycle, like right when I was kind of like graduating high school and in college. And it always kind of just felt like, oh, I guess I missed that wave of like being able to like have this new exciting technology where you can build all these new programs and applications on. And so I kind of like got into blockchain through my interest in finance and trading stocks and options. And so like Bitcoin and all that stuff was kind of exciting. And then also through just always kind of wanting to explore maybe like a new technology, but not really having the chance to do that when I was, in college and stuff because of just the timing of everything. So it was really exciting when I kind of came across the Ethereum white paper, probably in like 2017. And white papers are kind of funny to say now because like they're not nearly as big of a deal or as much hype as they were back then and during like the ICO boom and stuff. But they used to be like these crazy long like documents and a lot of them just like turned into big marketing documents. But I used to spend so much time just like reading them, getting like super hyped about all these crazy coins like that. Definitely most of them aren't around now. But just learning about like all the different potential businesses that could be built on top of blockchain technology, trying to understand just like what is a blockchain, how does it work? Like Ethereum was all about, okay, well, Bitcoin, is great, but we can actually build something where you can have an application layer on top of that and have all these different use cases, right? So kind of got the wheels turning in my head around, well, if you can build applications on top of it, then like maybe there is a chance to build a business in the future. Maybe it's something to really pay attention to. And so while all that was kind of going on, I was working in traditional finance, kind of following like my college journey and career path. Worked at Oakley for a little while, which is the sunglass and lifestyle company. Worked at their headquarters down in Southern California, which was really fun. But in like business analytics and finance. So that was kind of like consumer brand experience, and then moved to LA from Orange County and got a job at a TradFi company, a traditional finance company called Cetera Financial Group, which there's a lot of companies that work in that way where they can provide a platform for money managers to allocate money on behalf of their clients. So to kind of like put that in layman's terms, majority of like the wealth and money in the United States is guided through money managers, and whether that's hedge fund managers or financial advisors or RIAs, there's a variety of different stewards of capital, but majority of them invest, on behalf of clients that are, like our parents, maybe like us as we grow older, and people who aren't comfortable or don't have the time or energy to dedicate 100% or the appropriate percentage of their free time into investing. And so they outsource that to financial advisors or money managers. And a lot of those money managers work with fund companies, or platform companies, or technology companies to allocate the funds on behalf of their clients. So that was kind of what we did at Cetera, but on a larger scale. So like 10,000 advisors. And we had like 10 different brands and firms. And so it was like in Florida, there was one, and in New York, there's another. So then I got into Bitwise Asset Management, which is the firm I work for now. And it's a very similar concept in that we provide access to financial advisors, to money managers. We provide access to crypto products or to crypto assets through our structured products. And they can then allocate their clients' money into crypto in a less complex and also maybe a less dangerous, quote unquote, way, right? So some people aren't comfortable with like the MetaMask wallet and like the little ledger on their desk where they're like clicking through seed phrases and confirming transactions, and like I'm not comfortable with that like on a daily basis necessarily. And I've been doing this for a long time, so for a year or two at least, like to that extent. And so anyway, we kind of, and firms like us try to kind of abstract that away. And so they just look like they're dealing with normal investment products. And so I'm on the research team and get to help research those products, but also get to work with those money managers and like helping them along their crypto journey. So we do webinars, a lot of one-on-one calls, like demonstrations. Hey, this is how you use Uniswap. This is how you, this is like what OpenSea is, which is an NFT marketplace. And then it goes way down the rabbit hole because a lot of, money managers are super interested in crypto as well. So that's kind of like my background of how I went from traditional finance and how that blends over into crypto. And then I was just lucky enough to make that jump about a year ago. So, yeah.
The industry appreciates you. Thank you, Ryan. That's a great breakdown of everything. If this is your first time hearing about crypto, you're definitely going to want to hit the pause button, rewind, listen to that again. But it's a really good breakdown of how money flows, at least in the US, pretty much of like starts at the top. The high net worth individuals, they use firms that manage the money because they can dedicate 24/7, just like resource or allocation of time and energy to making sure they're invested in the right products. You don't want to deal with that. As somebody who also used to buy and sell options, you don't want to deal with that. It sucks when you wake up at 5:30 and you're just like praying your portfolio is green. Check the TD app before you check anything else in the morning. So you don't want to do that. You use these firms that help manage your money for you. And it's really cool that Bitwise is offering this like a suite of products to such a large clientele. How much money, Ryan, would you say, if you can say, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about that. How much money does Bitwise manage?
Yeah, definitely. No, we have about I think it's like 1.5 billion in assets under management, which is, it's a big number. It's a decent sized number. It moves, like the crypto market moves so much, right? So it can swing. I guess is what I'm trying to say. But no, the company's been around since 2017. So it's actually one of the companies that it was like the first crypto index that launched, and we've grown a lot in the last year. But just a part of what I think, what I really like drew me to Bitwise was that they've been around for so long. They've been through like those bear markets where the prices drew down 90%. and they survived through that, and and we're there for like their investors, and so it's everyday people are seeing the value of their portfolios swing, and so I thought it was really cool that we were able to kind of stay with them through that process.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for kind of just breaking down your journey within finances, your journey into the crypto sector. Like, we appreciate that insight genuinely. Like, coming from me, someone that's still super new to crypto, like a lot of what you're sharing is kind of like, I don't know, like people's like in the vintage world is like, oh, this is what the first pop-up would look like. This is like your first time at the bins or your first time at the rag house. Like, I'm finding these different places where the Venn diagram intersects. And it's dope to see that it's not just like, oh yeah, suddenly you become a crypto master and you out here researching crypto. Like, there was a process to all this. And on the topic of processes, I wanted to see if you could provide some insight to us on just like key metrics inside this space, key metrics in DeFi, NFT trends, or just general crypto knowledge you can impart on cats like me and cats like Alex, people like us. Yeah, we'd love to hear some.
Looking at the market cap of DeFi, which is the total value of all of the kind of DeFi applications, we have about like 120 billion in market cap. So it's a big number. It's only about 6% of like the total crypto market cap. So, it's not half of crypto. Again, most people think of crypto and think of like cryptocurrencies, but the actual financial services inside of our financial service applications in the crypto economy only make up about 6% of the entire space. So it's relatively small if you think of it from kind of that lens. But looking at the market cap is just a helpful way to understand like how DeFi protocols are being valued. Seeing how large it is as a percentage of the total sector gives you an idea of maybe how high it could grow. If you think it can be a higher percentage or not, then maybe you think there's a play there. But that's just kind of one metric. Then you can start looking at other business metrics. So that would be things like value locked, which I'll get into, but also more kind of normal metrics that like revenue, right, or trading volume or transaction volume, right? So literally like metrics that I'm probably out of my lane here, but like I don't know if you're running a Shopify or like a vintage store, like you looking at your revenue, you're looking at your revenue per transaction, your revenue growth over time. How much of that revenue are you paying out to people that you're, acquiring the goods from versus are you retaining on your own? So like we just look at these crypto applications, and it's obviously not just us. It's like this is the broader kind of approach now that things are evolving into businesses run on top of blockchains, is looking at different metrics like revenue, transaction volume, value locked. Same thing for NFTs. So getting into some of the more like DeFi ones, we have total value locked, which is a metric that it's really like an adoption metric and a growth metric. It's best to look at over time. Kind of looking at it at any point in time isn't really that helpful. If you see a chart of TVL or total value locked in DeFi, you can see that it really, for the first kind of few years that it was around, it was really relatively flat. Like, not even at like 20 billion in value locked, which I know is still a big number. But when you think about the relative growth today, we saw this huge uptick happening in the end of in 2020, which was DeFi summer, and then into 2021. And today there's about $200 billion in total value locked in DeFi. So it's a big number, right? So 200 billion of capital deployed into DeFi protocols, whether that's like people who have deposited assets into these, like, call them like crypto banks, right? So like Aave and Compound, or whether it's market makers or traders who are deploying assets into exchanges to help provide liquidity, which is just a kind of a fancy way of saying like people who are providing traditional market making services that in Web 2, in the regular finance world rather, is really done by like a few centralized parties. But the cool thing about DeFi is that 200 billion in value locked is coming from like so many different places and so many individuals, and anyone can access it with an internet connection or, with the crypto wallet. And so it's a much smaller number in the grand scheme of things when you think about how much capital is in traditional finance with DeFi. But I think it's really cool to think about where it's coming from and what that kind of means, like for where that could grow into.
Super cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, NFTs are heading, or like, first of all, what's your favorite NFT? And it doesn't have to be one you own or the one you've made most money on, but like you can call it a couple. Like, what are some of your favorite NFT projects?
I really like the Vintage Punks.
Good
No, let's see. So, my favorite collection is probably the Atom Bomb Squad collection, which is Bobby Hundreds, or the Hundreds dropped their collection probably last August. I think it was in August. And I don't know. To me, the NFT collections that are really resonating are ones that have like utility, which is very buzzwordy, but in the sense that like you can do something with it, or you get access to something. Yes, access to community is great, but like with the Hundreds, what's really cool is you've gotten like free clothes sent to you. You've gotten access to certain live events. Like they did I'm in LA. They did like a food festival thing, and if you owned one of the NFTs, you got into like a VIP section of the festival, and you got like a free meal, which it's like the smallest things. And like, yeah, that's great because like I lived in the area and it was really easy to get there and stuff. But if you kind of zoom out and look at like the projects that are providing utility in the sense that like, yes, I hope the number goes up. I hope the value of them like increases, but I'm getting things along the way and along the journey that for me are like making it worth it and are paying for it. And so that doesn't even mean that I have to get something I can resell. Like I got this shirt for free from the Atom Bomb Squad like thing, and like I'm not going to resell it, but it does have some value in my mind, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, this little digital this JPEG that I bought, like I'm getting some stuff out of it, and so anyway, yeah, I'm a big fan of Atom Bomb Squad. I also like Pudgy Penguins just because like I got into that.
Waiting for the Pudgy Penguin shout out.
Yeah, shout out to my Twitter profile, which is like the one that I have left, because I've sold a few along the way, and like I kept it because it was the most rare, but it's also the one that I was like least like, oh, I love the art, so it's got like a bowl cut, like cucumbers on the eyes, like a lei. It's got all this weird stuff going for it, but I like the Pudgy Penguins. That community is just like really, really hardcore. Like if you have been in that community for a while, or even if you jump into it now, like they just like it's really active, and like people are really passionate about the project. And so I might have some bias because I've been in that one. That was like my intro into NFTs like originally. And so I think that will always probably cloud my judgment on that one a little bit. But yeah, big fan of Pudgy Penguins. The other one that I would say like that I really, really like is well, obviously like Yuga Labs and everything they're doing with like Bored Ape and Mutant Ape and stuff is great. So I don't feel like we need to like dive into that unless you guys want to. But Wanderers is another really good one, which is a project where like the artist is just continuing to like develop stuff, and as artists continue to build additional like ecosystems for their original NFTs to like exist in and to like thrive in. It just is like a really, I don't know, interesting way to like keep bringing people back. So yeah,
that's what I noticed the most. Like from like whenever I talk to artist cats about NFTs, like they love like collections like the Wanderers. There's a artist named Billy Rax who created like creatures that you can utilize in the metaverse,
Mhm.
but like it also is attached to his album, which is a soundtrack for his whole metaverse. I was just like, bro, what? Like just me, like, you know what I mean? Just digesting that. I'm like, that's crazy that's possible. Secondly,
Yeah.
like it makes it's like now world building isn't just a metaphorical thing. Like you're literally creating the soundtrack, you're creating the outfits, you're creating the visuals, everything. And I really Alex told me a little bit about the Wanderer collection, and I really enjoyed that one as well, for real.
Yeah, it's super interesting. There's a few like ways that I find NFTs fascinating that I did not at all really ever care about traditional art, or that aren't possible with like traditional art. And I think part of that, well, I guess I'll kind of like walk through what those are. I have this debate all the time with when I'm trying to talk about NFTs with financial advisors, and even like, I don't know, it's kind of just like a generation above us. It's like I don't have traditional art. I don't care about traditional art. Like, yes, I get like if a Picasso is rare because the artist and yada yada. Like, I'm sure I'm offending some very traditional art people here. I don't mean to do that, but I'll get to my point. It's like one of the reasons why I don't like traditional art really is because like, I don't know, I've moved around for the last like 10, 15 years of my life. I am not a very careful person when it comes to like, I spill stuff all the time. I like break stuff. So for me, it's like almost riskier in a way to like buy expensive traditional art because now I have to worry about like transporting it. Now I have to like find space on my wall to put it up. And like moved in with my girlfriend recently, like we couldn't decide on the same, like there's no way that the art that I would have had by myself for the last 10 years, like would have been art that she wants in her apartment. And so like, storing it would have cost money. Like there's all these factors to traditional art that you just don't have with NFTs. And on the flip side of that, like wrapping back up to your point, like you can build so much more around them because they are digital. So not only is it easier to store NFTs because instead of having to find wall space or a vault or a storage closet, you can just hold it on your digital wallet, right? Or on your MetaMask or in your ledger. It's easier to sell them because I can sell them instantly. I don't have to go through an art broker to verify authenticity, to find a buyer, to negotiate and like transact it and everything. And it's also not going to get damaged. Like it's not going to, if a fire happens, like I'm not going to lose my piece of, like I'm not going to lose my art. I might lose the computer that the MetaMask was like loaded up on. But as long as my seed phrase isn't burned in that fire, I can still access that art. I can still sell it. I can still transport it. So there's all those like physical properties and just like characteristics of NFTs and digital art that really resonate with me. Just like being, I think like a millennial or just like having, not really like living in one place my whole life and not really understanding like, or growing up with technology and understanding like, it's nice when trends change to be able to like switch my profile picture real quick or like, I don't know what was cool in Fortnite 6 months ago, whatever might not have been cool today. And like, you just don't get that with traditional static art. And that then you can build worlds around it, which is like, yeah, very, very fascinating. And to me, that resonates a lot. And I think artists who just release an NFT and don't do any building around it are probably less likely in the future to find success than those who keep coming back and building their user base and fan base and community.
Totally. I think you mentioned a couple of good points there, both of you. And like, for me, it kind of boils down to two main parts with NFTs. Either it has to be an art, like a visual art thing that I resonate with and even can like use as a representation of myself in the metaverse, or it needs to be the membership that I'm buying into. And like basically NFTs are making memberships an asset pretty much. Like the value, I don't think there's ever been an instrument that could like value financially how much a certain community is worth in the ways that NFTs have. You have your country club, maybe memberships every year. You can't sell your country club membership midway to somebody else, or like a gym membership. Even you can't sell your gym membership to somebody else. And if the value of your gym, they add new stuff here. I always use this example, but like if they make your gym look nicer, that just makes your cost go up. Like you don't get to participate in any of the actual like financial appreciation.
Yeah, you don't get to write the depreciation off on your taxes for like the new gym equipment. Like
exactly.
You bring up some really good points there because we've been talking about kind of like the art and community aspect of it all. But if you think about just like straight like memberships from an NFT perspective, like you were talking about, I was just looking at the Comedy Store, which NFT collection, which is the Comedy Store is Alex is probably familiar with what this is, and maybe you as well. But for those who aren't, it's like a big stand-up comedy venue in LA. It's been around for like 50 years. It's right on Sunset in Hollywood. And like Joe Rogan, Bob Saget, like I don't know, well, he's RIP. Bad examples both, but anyways, a bunch of comedians go there. Point being, they're just dropping an NFT collection like this week, and I've been like following it very closely. And I have no idea how much it's going to cost. I'm hoping it's like not too expensive, but they're only dropping 600 of them. And I don't really care for the art. Like I looked at it, I was like, I don't, it literally is just like a ticket that it's like a ticket, virtual ticket. Like the art's not something you put on your Twitter profile or anything like that. But the utility out of it, like owners of that NFT will be able to have access to pre-sale tickets for certain shows in the future. They'll get discount on merch. They'll get to go to private events with like comedians. Who else, right? You start to feel like that country club or social club kind of vibe from some of these collections. And they don't have to be in person. Like that's great for me because I live in LA and I love going to stand-up comedy. And so like I would love to be able to take advantage of that. But in a virtual DAO setting, like you can get access to a community from anywhere in the world. Like I'm sure there's Vintage DAO members all over the States and probably internationally. And so, yeah, the whole membership aspect of it and how much you can make from, or how large you can build from that is really, it really is priceless. And the other side of like events ticketing, just to like bring it back to that comedy store thing, is like sporting events, like music events, like all these different like venues that can start using NFTs to sell their tickets via NFTs. Now they can code a royalty into their NFTs. And so if you're buying a ticket to go see a Seahawks game and you buy that and it's an NFT, the Seahawks don't make money on a secondary sale. Like that might get sold on Ticketmaster to someone else and the Seahawks don't get any of that. But with an NFT, the Seahawks could code like a 5% royalty into the smart contract that every single time that NFT changes hands on the secondary market, the Seahawks are getting 5% of that transaction. And so there's just a huge, I mean, everybody wins in Web3 and DAOs and NFTs and crypto, and so it's hard to not find a aspect of it that resonates with me. So I could kind of talk about it all day.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. That was perfect. Like, and just we were talking about the membership stuff too, and kind of bringing it back to Vintage DAO and why Vintage, why a DAO for Vintage. It's really that membership that we're talking about in the community that we're building here within Vintage DAO. We have a Belly, I believe he's in Sweden, so shout out to a Belly over there. But yeah, we have some international people in the DAO, and it's looking to grow even larger. I remember specifically during 2020 when it was locked down and everything, and when the IG Lives started going off with the auctions and all those kind of things. And it really gave the vendors overseas like a new way of participating in the marketplace that was truly never there before. And that was simply just done through Instagram Live, more or less. And whether or not that was good for Vintage at large, that's another debate, maybe. But it gave people over there like a really good opportunity that they never had before, utilizing technology. And that was like a great Web 2 example of how technology can kind of like bridge those worlds. But within Web3, and to be able to have access to the membership in Vintage DAO and like the resource of just the knowledge bank of everybody in Vintage DAO. Like if you need something, is this a verifiable piece? Like, can I just post in the Discord, get people to comment real quick? Oh no, like you don't get that. That's not legit. Or, oh wow, great deal. Like grab that kind of thing. Like That's really almost invaluable to a certain degree. Just being able to have that community of people, and like a lot of people in Vintage are one person operations within that. So you can't really bounce ideas off of people, or if you want to collaborate on something or like throw an event together kind of thing, like you just don't have that community traditionally. But now with Vintage DAO, that's one of the main goals, is to build that community space for everybody in Vintage. And the Discord is free to join. There's different layers to it. If you are in the DAO, you get certain like areas that are unlockable within it. But at the base level, everything is free to join. Anybody can participate in it. Like it doesn't cost any money or anything, cool. But there are definitely benefits to owning the Vintage Punk. And on that membership note, we're going to be throwing an event this summer. And after the event, everybody in Vintage DAO is going to get, this is alpha right here. Everybody in Vintage DAO is going to get 50% off everything. So whether that's a general ticket, whether that's a booth that you want to sell at. So if the booth is $100, cool. If you're in Vintage DAO, it's only going to cost you $50 for it. And like, that's kind of how you're talking about, you get those certain things throughout the years from that NFT series. Like it almost pays off itself in a way. We're just getting those resources and getting those perks and benefits. It's just like not immeasurable, because that's in that case, it's very measurable, but over time it just compounds is like a better way to say it. And as the community, like as the DAO offerings go up, and as we provide more services and connect more people around the globe, in theory, of course, do your own research, not financial advice, but in theory, the price of the NFT should go up. And there's only 300 of them. So it's a pretty small community. It was done on purpose for that way. And I designed them so that, traditionally with NFTs, people just look at what's the most rare percentage wise. Like they just want to buy whatever is technically the most rare, but not necessarily what's the best visual art. And so with the Vintage Punks, each one has the exact same rarity because there's only one of each. So there's only like one with that one background, one with that one t-shirt. So the pricing, besides just like community offerings, it really just comes down to what people value the art at and what do they value like that t-shirt at. And that was very like purposeful on that. So pretty cool on that. We're also going to have an after party event over summer. So if you're in the Vintage DAO, you're going to get to come to the after party for the event and everything. And some other stuff in the works too.
Yeah. I mean, That's a good point right there. Yes, it's okay. Yeah, it's tangible. If you get a 50% discount, you can actually calculate how much money you save. But like, who's to say that like you're not going to meet somebody at that event or at the after party or in the token gated Discord, right, where it's like that next level where you have to own an NFT. Who's to say that you're not going to meet someone that you're then going to go and have an opportunity to like build a business with, or to explore something new with, or just might like become I don't know, like a great friend that you find like, oh yeah, that was well worth whatever, fee I paid to get into this community, because now I've made connections, whether they're professional or personal, on the way. And so I think that the ability to kind of, I don't want to say like token gate a community, but like create some kind of like rarity of being able to be like part of this community is really, really special. And, people join country clubs, they join like nice gyms. Like I heard somebody, this like a week ago, I was talking to somebody and they said like one piece of advice they got was to join the nicest gym in their neighborhood, like in their area, because like inevitably you'll meet someone and that connection will pay for itself. And I was like, maybe I need to go get an Equinox membership. I was about to say,
you don't have your Equinox membership yet now.
It's like, I don't know if I'm meeting my next business partner at the my apartment building gym. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I mean, you get out of it what you put into it, as a lot of things in Web3 and in DAOs are. But you could always just be like that one event that you go to that changes everything, that's worth it, or that one community call you're on. So yeah, it really can be intangible or invaluable.
I guess like a big question I have, just kind of piggybacking everything we've heard so far, is like for people that are new to the crypto space, and for people that are like new in interacting with people like you, Ryan, like what are not necessarily trepidations, but what are advice of things that you can provide, just like be mindful of, I guess, as people are entering the crypto space, as people are working to explore the NFT space, DeFi space, all of this, the whole Web3 universe, from your perspective so far?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. It's such a wide, like a vast landscape. Like just there's so much that you could get into. One thing that I would say is just be wary of scams, and like those can come in all kind of shapes and sizes. And I don't mean and I don't mean that in like everything in crypto is scam by any means. But I've seen a lot of people who go down a rabbit hole because they found something on Reddit or Twitter, and they kind of just like don't do any extra research outside of maybe that like forum post or like that Twitter thread or something. And they can just end up going down a rabbit hole where either it leads to a scam, or maybe that one project in itself didn't really have anything that was going to like accrue value in the end of the day. But like you can get a bad taste in your mouth through crypto if you just go too deep down a rabbit hole and have your blinders on. So I would just say, if you're new to the space, like have an open mind, be aware that some things are scams. And so if you're seeing something pumped by like a huge account on Twitter, do more research. Like if you're seeing someone say it's a sure thing, like on Reddit, like just do more research. And take a lot of things that you see online about like which token is the best or is going to pump, like with a grain of salt, and learn about the technology. It really is fascinating. I like the DeFi stuff because I've always been interested in financial markets, but clearly you guys have found something that resonates with you, right? It's building a community. And you can learn so much through doing that. And you can learn all about MetaMasks. You can learn all about trading on OpenSea. You can learn about like a multi-sig or a treasury for like a DAO, right? As you go down those rabbit holes. But all those terms can sound very, can kind of be, hard to swallow at first and really intimidating for newcomers. But a lot of them are just like fancy words wrapped around concepts that you've heard of. And, like a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. It's just like a club that hangs out in Discord. Like there's nothing crazy about that, and a decentralized exchange is just like Coinbase or like the stock exchange. It's just using crypto technology. So yeah, I guess, be wary of scams, but also do your own research. Like it's invaluable to just spend time listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, reading about, projects, assets, and having an open mind. Yeah.
Any recommendations? I know that's the second time you mentioned podcast is a great way to dive into this universe. Any
Yeah.
recommendations for people to listen to additionally?
Yeah, definitely. So there's some podcasts that I really like that I try to just make sure I catch kind of on a weekly basis. Bankless is one that I listen to a lot, and they've started producing like so much content, it's nearly impossible to keep up with it. So if you're gonna follow one episode of theirs a week, like probably the weekly roundups are really good, and those are, I think, come out on like Thursday or Fridays, and it's like an hour, 2 hours long, just like everything happening in crypto and Web3. So Bankless is a good one. I really like Blockworks Empire podcast. So it's by the company Blockworks, which is one of kind of the leading like media companies in crypto. They also follow them on like Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever else you get your information, because they produce a lot of or great articles on the space. But they have really approachable content. Like they talk about, interesting concepts, at least that I find really interesting from a crypto perspective, but they break it down and make it very approachable. That's co-hosted by the founder of that and the founder of Gauntlet, which is like a risk management analytics platform. And so it's just like a really interesting kind of narrative into the space. It's very technical, very news oriented, and yeah. So Blockworks Empire, Bankless, and then the Defiant is really good. It's a DeFi one. It's hosted by Cami Russo, who is a phenomenal author and just like she's really great, huge in the space. She leads the Defiant, which is an entire like media company in crypto, but she also hosts that podcast, and they have great interviews with like founders across the space, traditional investors, VCs. So really great conversations. She also wrote my favorite book that I've ever read on crypto, called The Infinite Machine. So I recommend that to anybody who is just looking to learn about, it's really about Ethereum, but it really teaches like a normal person's journey into Web3. Like, we're trying to solve a problem. It tells it through the story of Ethereum. So you learn about a lot of the key players in the crypto space. You learn all about Vitalik, who's like the guy who founded Ethereum. And you learn that he like worked for Bitcoin Magazine way back in the day, and like all this like really interesting stuff. But it's written very well. And so I highly recommend that. And yeah, that's probably it. I mean, there's some rabbit hole podcasts like that you could always go down. But I would say those three are probably the best starter podcasts, like to get you hooked.
Yeah, and honestly, make sure you follow Ryan on Twitter. Also, there's some good
Rasterly Rock. Yeah.
Yes. Why don't you spell it for them so they know how to spell it correctly?
Yeah, it's definitely follow me on Twitter. Again, like LinkedIn. One thing that I think people don't realize is that Web3 and crypto is expanding beyond Twitter. So like Instagram, LinkedIn, there's a lot of going on in those spaces on crypto. But follow me on Twitter, RASTERLYROCK. It's Rasterly Rock. Big Game of Thrones fan, so like I tried to make a pun with my last name, and then I realized I was going to start posting about stuff for work. And
yeah, hey, thank y'all so much for listening to this episode. This has been our first guest on the Vintage DAO Podcast, Ryan Rasmussen, the one and only, you know what I'm saying, crypto research analyst at Bitwise. You gotta put a little sprinkle, you gotta put a little respect on this guy's name. But genuinely, thank you so much. We got to explore a little bit about Ryan's journey into the world of DeFi, the world of crypto. We got to explore a little bit of his insight on decentralized finances, traditional finances, and also just kind of a bit of some of his favorite NFT collections and podcasts to listen to for additional research. The biggest takeaway for me from listening to everything is do more research. Do more research. That's the episode title of this title. Do more research. Be in community with people that aren't yourselves. Be willing to try out new things. And of course, like, take everything with a grain of salt. Something that may be the truth one day will be a lie another day. Something that may be a lie one day may become the international standard the next week. Everything is shifting so much within this universe, but I think like connecting to real people that are in here, in the crypto world, in the vintage world, whichever world you're coming from, I think is one of the best ways to get connected to learning about how exciting this technology is. You know, past the JPEG artwork, past the possible scams that cats are doing, just like the ability to be able to access this level of financial growth is honestly unprecedented. And genuinely, I want to say a big thank you to Ryan for coming onto the Vintage DAO podcast. Ryan, if there's anything you would like to plug, man, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, the red carpet is open for you right now. Even if you just want to let us know your Twitter again, but the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Anybody feel free to give me a follow on Twitter. That's generally where I talk about and kind of post about crypto related stuff, and try to provide kind of like some analytics, but also, a little bit of narrative there. So follow me at Rasterly Rock on Twitter, LinkedIn, Ryan Rasmussen, hard to spell. So grab it from the show notes, but, yeah, just, jump on in. Don't be afraid. Everybody is really, really welcoming. And I've never met a Web3 community where I haven't been able to jump in Discord and ask questions that maybe I thought was a dumb question. And everyone's always very welcoming. And, I just encourage everyone to jump in the space. It's been a lot of fun. So thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.